That is better. Nice of a day to be in here, but
I wasn't expecting that.
Last 2 days have been so nice.
spoiled. Probably umbrella to keep the rain quiet. Right in sync, I think.
Good.
How's summer vacation treating you?
Right.
Good evening. I'd like to call this Tuesday, June 5th, 2018, meeting of Middletown City Council to order. Please stand and join me in moment of meditation and the pledge of allegiance to the flag. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Vittori. Here. Mr. Bohannon.
Here.
Mr. Moon.
Here.
Mr. Mulligan.
Here.
Mayor Mulligan.
Here. All right, our first order of business is comments. I'd like to invite Ms. Julie Joy Smith down from the auditor's office. Good evening. Thanks for coming down this evening.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me a few moments of your time. In past, I've come and explained to you where we might be during a filing period for border revision, and I keep you apprised of things like that. What I thought might be interesting is to see how the numbers shake out for the city of Middletown. For the filing period that ended on April 2nd this year, we had a grand total of 765 cases filed for complaints against the valuation of their property. Comparatively speaking, back in 2014, when we had our last physical reappraisal, we had 1,441 cases. And prior to that, our last triennial update was in 2011. We had 2,288 cases filed. So comparatively speaking, we're down quite a few cases. We attribute that to the fact that over the past few years, our appraisers are handling our reappraisals in-house. We're no longer farming it out to large companies who may be from Montgomery or Hamilton County. We've trained our appraisers. They're now all certified, and they're working through the office. We feel like they live in Butler, they work in Butler, they know the values better than the company that we've contracted out. So how do these numbers affect the city of Middletown specifically? There are 89 cases for a total of 307 parcels filed for this current tax year to appeal their value. Of those 89 cases, 78 cases are seeking a total valuation decrease of $5.1 million. Now that is our 35% value, and while that is a large number, it's really not all that shocking. When I took that value and took it against just the city effective rates, we're looking at a combined total of a revenue loss of potentially $35,000. Now that would mean every one of those 78 cases would have to be successful, and that's not likely. In addition to the 78 cases, we had 10 cases filed by the Middletown City School Board, where they are the original complainant seeking an increase on commercial or industrial properties. Now they're seeking an increase of $1.5 million in valuation, which would result to about $11,000 annually. So your offset, if everything went according to how people filed, you would have a net loss of $25,000 in revenue. And interestingly enough, we've had one residential case seeking an increase, which is kind of unusual in this day and age. But if she is successful, she would have an increase of $86 on her tax bill. And that is just the Middletown portion. So I just thought I would share the numbers with you to let you know what is going on. I have all this in a nifty Excel if anybody's interested in taking a look at it. It would show you everyone who's appealed, including some of the larger commercial properties. I believe there's a Kroger on there. Just so you have an idea of what it is. So if anyone is interested, I'm happy. I can send it to Amy and she can distribute it, or you can reach out to me individually and I'll be happy to do so. It's not an update from me unless I touch briefly on skimmers. Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't have much to report on that. We haven't found a skimmer since October of 2017, so we're happy to report that. I reported that the Android technology of Skim Plus is effective in locating, potentially locating skimmers on pumps, and unfortunately the Apple version is not yet ready, but we're watching for it. Now, I mentioned that our 2017 triennial year was a reappraisal year for us, and our appraisers are not just relaxing and enjoying their time off from a job well done, they're actually gearing up for the 2020 physical reappraisal. The first step in this is new street level imaging. So that's where we have contracted with a company to go around and take photos of just the fronts of the buildings for all residential and commercial properties. We started it in early April out in Morgan Township, and we're moving towards I believe there are 6 phases, and Middletown being in the 5th phase, so we're quite a ways away. We do try to reach out to all the dispatch areas, police, let them know that we're going to be in your area. So right now I believe we're in Ross Township, so you don't have anything to worry about. But should anyone call concerned that someone's taking pictures, we had a call today, somebody is videoing property, we don't video, and we weren't in that area. So if you have a concerned citizen, by all means, have them call the auditor's office. We'll be able to tell them who they are, what it's like. The vans are very clearly marked that it's for our photo project, so there's no one in individual cars, there's no one walking or canvassing the area. So for security, when in doubt, give us a shout. And finally, you may have seen in the news recently, Auditor Roger Reynolds had a small press conference because we had an instance where a gas station on Dimmick Road in Route 42 had complaints of a lot of water in the tank, or in the big tanks, and then when folks were getting gas, their cars were dying shortly after gassing up. So unfortunately, in the state of Ohio, we're one of 3 states that don't have any fuel quality testing requirements. About 10 years ago, the Ohio legislature passed some legislation that would require the Department of Agriculture to allow for testing, but it would have to be uniformly implemented. Unfortunately, no money ever followed that, and nothing ever happened with it. So we, the auditor's office, are reaching out to our state reps throughout Butler County, trying to get some interest in backing this, because it's uncomfortable as consumers to know that your pump is safe, maybe from skimmers, but that you're buying bad gas, or you're buying the wrong octane, you're paying for premium, you're not getting it. So if anyone, especially from a council position, is interested in tagging in, we would appreciate any support that you could let your representatives know that you're interested in getting fuel quality testing in Ohio, so that companies who sell their less than stellar product skip Ohio when they're depositing their products. So that's all I have. If anyone has any questions, I'm always happy to entertain them.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any questions for Ms. Smith this evening? All right, thank you.
very
Always
much.
appreciate your updates. I've received a few comment cards this evening. First, I'd like to invite Ms. Dora Bronston down to the podium. Good evening. If we get your name and address for the record, please.
Dora Bronston, 4817 Earl Avenue. I understand that the reduced number of people on your Charter Review Committee is going to present a report tonight, and I'm here to support our public safety. It's not a kept thing under wraps that I don't support our public safety. I think it's one of the most important departments that we have in the city. I happen to live here and think that our police and fire departments have evolved into a dynamic organism, especially in the last 4 years, where we have since had enough staff to put them out on the streets again, not only to protect us, but also a sense of protection within the department themselves. Our police chief and our fire chief are very strong. They're transparent. They are residents here. They're our neighbors. They're our children's friends. We can contact them with trust that the right thing will be done in situations here in town. And because of their leadership, we have our Citizen Advisory Board. We have our National Night Out. We have our coffee with a cop. They participate in many organizational things in our community, such as the Second Ward, Derico Egg Hunt, a lot of other events in parks around town. They help out and are familiar with our veterans, our people who have mental problems and disabilities. They've participated in our opioid summits. They have come to talk to residents about sensitive but necessary issues. They've spoken, of course, on many occasions with the NAACP town hall meetings. I can recall a problem where there was talk about a protest and a march, and we called on our police and fire, and they came out to a town hall meeting and talked about stand your ground and where we stand in the state of Ohio, and they put out a potential problem. So they've been very open with us and with our residents. They've participated in all kinds of other diversity dialogues. We have trained our officers, as you all know, to be some of the best here in the state of Ohio. So much so that other cities send their K-9 units here. Our training is impeccable. We have an urban city now with urban issues. They're very well aware of those. They've been awarded all kinds of awards for their task force efforts. We know that heroin overdoses are down right now because of their efforts and with their canines. And they partner with other cities in other emergency situations. And so Middletown has had a bright past. There are some people in Middletown who did not. Those issues have been addressed over the years. We've evolved into a place where we can respect each other's culture because of our police leadership and our firemen's leadership. They're exceptional in standing up against hatred and prejudice. So I'm here, as you see, to support whatever recommendation that the Charter Review plans to give you with our police department. Our police department, their hiring efforts reflect the demographics of our city. If you allow the chief to come in who's not experienced in what we've accomplished here over the years, with all of our hard work to try to fix something, we've been working to fix things for many years. I think we've come to a point now where we can proceed with those people who are in place as our leaders, who have been promoted, and we see such a change in this city. So my plea tonight is to talk to you, to convince you of whatever you've been presented or will be presented here tonight, that if it's not fixed, if it's not broken, why fix it? Why try to fix something that's been fixed?
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next, I have Mr. Jason Wargo. Good evening. Will you get your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Detective Jason Wargo, 1 Downham Plaza. I'm the Vice President of the Police Officers Union, FOP 36, and I'm just here on behalf of the union that we are opposed to any changes to the city charters involving the outside hiring of police and fire chiefs. I've been here for 17 years with the city, and I've been through 5 police chiefs, and I believe each chief has set their benchmark while they were here, and the chief that has come after each chief has met that benchmark and moved it on up to the point where we're at now with Chief Muterspaw, who has definitely set a high benchmark for the next person, and I think he has set himself up for someone within our organization to meet that benchmark and take it further. I could see if you wanted to change the charter, if things were just bad and continually got bad and worse because of how things were in the department, but I think things have gone very well over the years that I don't think there's a reason to open up to outside applicants. I think that's all I need to say.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you coming down this evening. All right, next card I have is from Mr. Ross Green. Good evening, Mr. Green. If we get your name and address for the record, please.
Ross Green, 2300 Roosevelt Boulevard.
Good evening.
Good evening, members of the council. I come here tonight to speak on behalf of Middletown Firefighters Local 336. We want to express also our opposition to the proposed changes to the Middletown Charter, specifically the changes that would allow the hiring of the police and fire chiefs from outside their respective departments. Both the fire and police departments in this city have a long and proven history of promoting through the ranks to the position of fire chief. The men and women of these departments are dedicated to the residents of this city and the employees under their command. They have a vested interest in this city. They've worked hard here for many years. They live here. They raise their families here, and they truly care what goes on in this city. It's so much more than just a paycheck and a job. The years it takes to promote to the position of chief allows an individual to be involved in the day-to-day operations for years, learning what works and doesn't work for Middletown. Hiring a qualified chief from the outside creates animosity and would most likely only attract someone who is at the end of their career, looking to stay around for a year or two. A perfect example of this is our neighbor, Westchester. They did not one, but 2 nationwide searches for their fire chief only a few years ago. Spent a great deal of money only to hire one of their own qualified employees in the end. We have a system in place that works. It's proven. Why try to fix something that's not broken? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, and the last card I have this evening is from Miss Wanda Glover. Good evening. If we get your name and address for the record, please.
Wanda Glover, 1106 Calumet, Middletown, Ohio. Speaking first from the multicultural aspect of the Second Ward Community Council, and would like to invite everybody out. That's this Saturday, June 9th, from 10 to 7. We have a parade at 10 o'clock in the morning coming from Old South Park, going to Douglas Park. Amy Ventura and Deanna Shores are our grand marshals. There'll be a health fair, and there'll be live entertainment and face painting and other things for the youth, and music and food and fun. And we want to invite everybody in the community out, of course. And I also want to thank personally our mayor and our vice mayor, who's never failed to support us in these efforts, even with our Christmas parties and all. And we really, really appreciate it, and hope to see you guys at the parade. The second thing, I also want to express my sadness about the Charter Review Committee and the factor that it was decreased in size. I worked on that committee before when it was larger, and I felt like it was quite organized. We worked under less, and I think we got a lot done. But I do really want to express, because I am also on the CAB board, the factor that we have a wonderful police chief, and we have wonderful men that work under him. And I am afraid that if we start looking elsewhere, then the guys under him will feel, well, what's the sense in us staying here if we get offered something else, because there's not going to be room for advancement. If they can hire from outside, they can get somebody anywhere, and I can always come back. I think that they work well with the community. The fire works well with the community. In fact, they're both going to be at the health fair with the smokehouse and with the police dogs, and we really, really appreciate that. And so I am saying, please, like you said before, if it's not broke, don't fix it. The other thing that I want to talk about is the Housing Committee. I was talking to a few people, and they were saying, Doug, that you were having meetings. And so I said, well, when is the next meeting? Because I want to be there. They said, well, I'm sorry, but it's a closed meeting. And I know that I went to the very first meetings, and I know that when I talked to you that you said that we were going to be advised of when you were going to start having your meetings. And so I want to ask you, are these meetings truly closed? I mean, are we not invited as a Second Ward and community? Or is it just going to be people that live on the outs of Middletown coming in?
We can have Mr. Atkins address that as manager.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
But I
Thank you,
do
Ms. Glover.
plan to be a part of, so please invite me.
There will be lots of opportunities for the public to be involved. And
All right.
just so you know, I was a little busy today
Not
getting
public,
ready.
I'm saying
Getting ready.
the closed meetings, yeah.
Yeah, I was a little busy today getting ready.
All right, that brings us to Our city manager reports. Mr. Atkins?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As you're aware, from time to time, we do review our city charter. This is one of those years we've been working on that. Les Landon's been working with the Charter Review Committee for several months, and they are now ready to make a report to council. And I'll ask Chairman Joe Newland to come up and make a presentation.
Good evening. I am Joe Newland, 4824 Hickory Hollow, and I did serve as chairman of the review committee. We have the reports, and many of the amendments we considered were to basically cover cleanup of language, simplification of procedures. I think those are pretty self-evident in order to streamline the legislative action that you have to take. I would draw your attention to two items that we spent a great deal of time on. The first was Proposition F, relating to the classification of police and fire chiefs. The members present unanimously recommend these positions be moved to the unclassified service. This gives you the opportunity to consider not only in-house but outside candidates for those jobs. We also discussed whether we should take any action on the procedure by which these things are done. It was our determination that that should be left to the professionals. We did learn in the course of our discussions that some of the promotions below the level of chief, input was given by the chiefs of those departments to determine who was on those assessment boards. We do not believe that is a proper procedure at all. Any assessment board ought to be presented or picked by professionals, not part of the in-house procedure. Also draw your attention to Proposal J, which related to the mandatory allocation of some part of the city income tax to capital improvements, more specifically streets. Discussion was had on a number of possibilities. Ultimately, however, we decided that this provision would be too restrictive and could adversely affect other necessary city programs. If something came up, wouldn't be able to use that money for something other than street improvements. The committee, however, urges council to take some deliberate action in some form, a bond issue, income tax increase, or an ordinance to assure that regular street improvements program is implemented. I understand our city manager has a program in place that will cover some of these areas. This is obviously a feature that is very clear to the public, and it's something they see on a daily basis. I would say that the members of the committee enjoyed serving the opportunity to participate, and we hope you will find our recommendations useful.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Newland or comments from council?
Is now the time to ask questions about specific recommendations, or would that be more appropriate during the legislation section?
Either's probably fine. I mean, if it's something you didn't cover, maybe during the legislation.
One of the things either is fine. The purpose tonight was to get this in front of you, have the first reading, and then give you at least 2 weeks to ask questions. We're happy to at least get those questions tonight. We may or may not have an immediate answer for you, but we certainly encourage council for any questions that they have. Bring them forward, let us get you full information. I'll make sure everybody gets to see the same information, and so that, yeah, hopefully in 2 weeks you're ready to give some thought as to how you want to vote on each one.
I'll wait for the legislation to be more orderly.
My question, would we be able to justify yes or no on any particular item, or do we have to, we accept everything or we accept nothing? Is it all or nothing?
They're all individuals.
There are 8 separate ordinances for the recommendations that the committee has made, and they will be voted on individually, so you can pick and choose the ones you like and don't like, and if there's something that's not there that you think should be there, you do have the occasion to suggest to staff that you'd like to see something like that.
I had one question about the Charter Review Committee meeting more frequently than once every 10 years. Was the language sufficient in the current charter that would allow for an additional Charter Review Committee?
This body can convene a Charter Review Committee anytime they want to. The charter requires that it happen at least every 10 years. This particular review committee is making a recommendation, with that being from 10 years to every 5 years. They believe that that was would would make the process more orderly and limit its scope a bit.
Okay.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. That brings us to our consent agenda. Ms. Skank?
For your consideration this evening, we have the approval of the city council minutes from May 15th, 2018, to receive and file board and commission minutes from the Park Board from April 9th, 2018, the Board of Health from April the 10th, 2018, and the Middletown Visitors Bureau from April 16th, 2000, that should be 18. Sorry about that. Confirm the personnel appointments of Aaron Adkins, Animal Control Officer, Public Safety, Police Department, Audrey Morris, Secretary 3, Public Works and Utilities at the Water Treatment Plant. To confirm the Board and Commission resignation of Scott Tucker from the Building and Housing Appeals Board, and to confirm the Board and Commission appointment of Sherry Howard to the Middletown Visitors Bureau, and to purchase 3 3/4-ton pickup trucks from Bo Townsend Ford, Vandalia, Ohio, in the amount of $84,190.50, which makes it $28,063.50 per truck.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion for the approval of the issues and actions listed on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan.
Yes.
Ms. Vettori.
Yes.
All right, several motion items this evening.
First is the sale of the city-owned vacant lot located at 302 Charles Street, parcel number Q 65320260000041. James and Heather Rudy own the property next door at 306 Charles Street and wish to purchase this lot to extend their yard. The sale price is $500.
Okay, motion to adopt?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Atkins, you want to cover these all at once, since they're all kind of...
I'd be happy to, Your Honor. Each one of these, at least the first couple here, 1109 Hughes Street, 302 Charles, 1508 Taylor, and 3105 Morgan Street. Your first 4 are all side lots. People own the building next door and would like to extend their lots. We typically sell them for $500. We've been through the process and they're ready for your action this evening.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion or a second. Any other discussion or comments? Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan.
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Ms. Vettori.
Yes.
Item B, sale of a city-owned vacant lot located at 1109 Hughes Street, parcel number Q 65110200000020 and Q 65110200000045. Ova Conley and Karen Conley own the property next door at 1111 Hughes Street and wish to purchase this lot to extend their yard. Typically, we sell them for $500 per parcel. However, one of these parcels is very narrow and virtually unusable, so the sale price for both of these lots is $500 total.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion or comments? Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan.
Yes.
Ms. Vettori.
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Item C, sale of city-owned vacant lot located at 1508 Taylor Avenue, parcel number Q 65420390000005. Robert Robinson owns a property next door at 1510 Taylor Avenue and wishes to purchase this lot to extend his yard. Sale price is $500.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion or comments? Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Mulligan.
Yes.
Ms. Vettori.
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
Item D, the sale of city-owned vacant lot located at 305 Morgan Street, parcel number Q 65421180000063. Carol Joseph owns the property next door at 3103 Morgan Street and wishes to purchase this lot to extend her yard. Sale price is $500.
Okay, motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion or comments? Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Vettori.
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan.
Yes.
Item E, sale of city-owned lot located at 3316 Titus to Metropolitans of Middletown LLC for $26,000.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. This is a small commercial property that had been blighted that the city acquired through the county land bank. We have now been working with the next door owner, Matt Heller, who owns the vet business. We have been working on who could demolish it most cheaply, and the answer is us. And so we have a bid and agreement with him to demolish the property, and then he's going to reimburse us for the demolition and take control of the property and get it off our books. So he's recommending the sale for $26,000.
Very good. Any questions or comments from council? Okay, Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Sale of the city-owned vacant lot located at 423 Yankee Road, parcel number Q 65210221000013. Tim Bailey owns a property next door at 421 Yankee Road and wishes to purchase this lot to extend his yard. He's going to acquire the property through the mow-to-own I can't say it. Program.
We knew what you meant.
I'm sorry. He would be responsible for maintaining the property for 1 year. If there are no violations, the city would deed him the property at that time.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt?
Second?
Okay, any discussion or comments?
Are we still doing, I mean, I'm good with it, but I thought we were getting rid of mow-to-own.
Well, we are doing it if it's a next door neighbor.
Okay.
We will allow them to if we feel like they'll follow
Okay.
through, but not just speculating for land.
Okay.
I did
Thank you.
just want to add one thing, and it was something we had talked about earlier this week. I'm wondering if we need to possibly pause the sales like these, given what's going on with the housing study, and wait till we get finished with that plan before we make any further $500 sales for residential property. Hate to give away something that might be strategically located that we might need in the future.
I don't disagree with that. When you and I had talked, I said we wanted to get these, we had already committed to these people that we would bring these forward.
And I agree, we need to honor our word with the folks who are already.
I don't think that's a terrible idea. I don't know that I'd put a formal moratorium in place, but I think it'd be enough for staff to say, let's hold off at least for 90 to 120 days. Let's see where housing is heading and whether or not it makes sense during that time to wait, maybe.
Okay. All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Item G, to purchase sewer inspection camera equipment and a Ford E450 chassis from Jack Doney Companies Incorporated of Northville, Michigan, in the amount of $242,500.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor, this is part of our long-term control consent decree requirement. We have to complete a complete sewer system condition assessment within 5 years. It will include visual inspection of all sewer pipes to prioritize replacement and rehabilitation, likelihood of failure, consequence of pipe failure, and other things like that. The upgraded sewer inspection equipment will be needed to maintain and do this process. We've tested several different equipment manufacturers. The Jack Doney Companies of North gave us the best camera equipment. You would normally mount this on a Ford 450 and then take it out throughout the city and put it down, and so we are recommending that for your approval tonight.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That brings us to our council comments. Start the evening with Mr. Mulligan.
Thank you, Your Honor. First, let me express thanks to Charter Review Committee and its chairman and Mr. Landon for guiding that, delivering a good product to us, and we appreciate the thought and the effort that went into that. Really, the whole committee did a great job. I enjoyed reading your report. Also, I offer thanks for hospitality to the Fraternal Order of Eagles, who hosted the annual Police Week Awards Dinner. And a special congratulations goes out to the Officer of the Year, Brooke McDonald, Dispatcher of the Year, Beth Potter, and Corrections Officer of the Year, Danny Gibson. So there were plenty of awards given out that night, and it was a great celebration of the talented and dedicated staff that we have in our police force. And we appreciate their work in the past year and their continued good efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bohannon?
Nothing this evening.
All right, Ms. Vettori?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Moon?
I too wanted to thank the Charter Review for all the work. It's obviously taken a lot of time and a lot of effort and consideration, so thank you for your time. I was going to mention the multicultural event, but Ms. Glover already covered that, so I'll leave it at that. And I also wanted to thank Scott and Jerry Lewis. They hosted the mayor and I and Congressman Davidson last week for a tour of their facility. It's really very impressive, and I'm looking forward to seeing the completed project. And while I'm talking about Jerry and Scott, also thank them for all their work on the parade this past week. That's all I have.
Thank you. Everything I had on my list has pretty much been covered. I do want to express my appreciation to Mr. Atkins and the Housing Committee. I don't think that was mentioned. That was a good, thorough overview. Council's seen a lot of that before. We've presented it, but really brought the committee up to speed in terms of some of the issues we're dealing with and some of the potential solutions and ways to address it. And I believe all that is being available streaming through our website as well. So folks that aren't able to attend the meetings can certainly catch it there. And let's see, I did want to mention the Multicultural Festival is coming up this weekend and a couple weekends too. We have the Fenwick Festival. And this is, I think, our last meeting before Father's Day, so I'll pause to wish all the fathers a happy Father's Day coming up here. So, and with that, we can move to our legislation. Ms. Fox?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Tonight there are 20 items of legislation, only one of which is an emergency, so we'll need to waive the charter provisions in regards to ordinance number O 2018-22.
I move to waive the charter provision requiring reading on 2 separate days and to declare ordinance number O 2018-22 an emergency measure to be read one time only.
Second. Okay. Ms. Kank, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
First this evening is ordinance number O 2018-20. This is an ordinance amending section 624.02 in regards to trafficking in controlled substances, gifts of marijuana, 624.03 in regards to drug abuse, and 624.16 in regards to possession, manufacture, and sale of drug paraphernalia. This is of the Middletown Codified Ordinances.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
And we update on this last time. Any other changes or comments?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? All right, Ms. Kank, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ordinance number O 2018-21, an ordinance changing the zoning classification for various parcels located on Central Avenue from a B1, which is a neighborhood business district, to a B2, which is a community business district. This is a second reading and is ready for action.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion or comments from council? We had a public hearing on this last time. Update?
Yeah, I just want to mention, we all received an email, but I did want to publicly mention, we do still have the ability to contest a liquor permit as well as code enforcement and those type of things in the event that something arose that was unseemly.
All correct.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions or comments? Ms. Kank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Ordinance number O 2018-22, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Clean Harbors Environmental Services Incorporated for the cleanup of a lime spill at the water treatment plant and declaring an emergency.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. On April 5th of this year, a valve malfunctioned during routine maintenance of the lime slaker at the water treatment plant, spilling powdered lime into the enclosed slaker room. It was actually 4 tons of lime powder escaped from the storage bin before the fire department could safely close the valve. Specialized cleanup contractor was called in to immediately remove and dispose of the lime powder. This was done on a cost, time, and material basis in the amount of $45,650.61. There is money appropriated in the Water Capital Reserve Fund, and we are asking for emergency legislation to allow them to be paid for work already done.
Any questions or comments from council?
Were the 2 workers, are they back to work?
They are back. They've been back for a couple weeks.
Good.
Anything else? Ms. Kank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Ordinance number O 2018-23, an ordinance authorizing an agreement with Grove Street PSH LLC and/or Hope House Rescue Mission to waive permit fees and impact fees for the redevelopment of 1001 Grove Street and declaring an emergency. No action is requested until June 19th, 2018.
Okay. Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. This is the old Abilities First building. Hope House is going to renovate and demolish and rebuild on that location. It will move the men's shelter off of Main Street and oversee the construction of a 35,000 square foot facility with both residential and office uses. This is in support of the downtown master plan. getting them out of our downtown area. Staff is recommending the waiver of all permit, building inspection, and engineering fees up to $25,000. And we are asking for a second reading emergency on June 19th so that they can go ahead and file for permits. They would like to start construction somewhere around September.
Okay. Any questions from council? Yeah. Thank you.
Ordinance number O 2018-24, an ordinance modifying the designated outdoor refreshment area, establishing requirements to ensure public health and safety within such area, and declaring an emergency. No action is requested until June 19th, 2018.
Okay, Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. We've been working with the downtown bar owners, Downtown Middletown Inc., and the Middletown Police Department to review the door's overall operation. One of the recommendations that came out of that is to change the time that we allow the door to be open. As you recall, we were the first in Ohio. We started fairly conservatively at that time. Staff is recommending the door now operate from 12 noon to midnight, 7 days a week, Saturday through Sunday. That is consistent with what most Ohio doors are doing at this time. And this will, I believe, a first reading, if I remember right. Second reading emergency.
Yeah. Okay, any questions, Mr. Atkins?
Yeah, I sent you an email earlier in the week, and I don't know if, I hadn't seen anything, I just wanted to make sure by the next meeting. I was curious if we see any tick up in calls for service from the police department or fire during door hours, or if either have to change their delivery method during those hours.
I believe the answer is no, but I forgot, and I
That's fine.
apologize. I will track that down
Thank
for you.
I believe at the meeting we had with the police a few weeks ago, the answer was no.
Okay.
There were maybe one or two kind of people with a cup outside that had to be told to take it back, but nothing really incidental beyond that.
Okay, anything else from council?
We'll get that out to council.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
apologize for the delay.
All right.
Ordinance number O 2018-25, an ordinance providing the submission to the electors of the City of Middletown, an amendment to Article 1, Sections 1 and 3, and Article 2, Sections 2 and 3 of the Charter of the City pertaining to the structure and composition of City Council. This is a first reading, and Mr. Landon will give the presentation on this.
Good evening, Mr. Landon.
Good evening. This is the first of 8 ordinances being submitted for first reading tonight related to and recommended by the Charter Review Committee. This is a ordinance which impacts no real change. It simply gets rid of some language and simplifies the language that is in the charter. As the result of moving from 5 councilmen to 7 councilmen, back to 5 councilmen, instituting wards and removing wards over the last 20 years. There was a lot of language in this section which makes it very difficult to read. And we felt that it was time, now that things have settled and the dust seems to be settled on this, and we're settled with a directly elected mayor, 4 at-large council members, that it was a good time to rewrite this so that it's easy for people to read again instead of having to forage through all of the information.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Atkins, on the first? Okay.
Ordinance number O 2018-26, an ordinance providing the submission to the electors of the City of Middletown, an amendment to Article 2, Section 11 of the Charter of the City, requiring a copy of the annual report of the city to be on file at the city library. This is also a first reading.
Right now, there is a provision in the charter that each year when the city produces its annual report, there has to be a copy on file at the city library. It seems to be a requirement given the availability of electronic media that just doesn't make any sense anymore. So in the effort to modernize the charter, we're proposing this be out there in electronic form rather than at the city library.
Okay, very good. Any questions from council? All right, Mr. Landon.
Ordinance number O 2018-27, an ordinance providing the submission to the electors of the City of Middletown, an amendment to Article 3, Section 3 of the Charter of the City pertaining to the appointment of city employees. This is a first reading.
One of the interesting things that's in the city charter of the City of Middletown is that the appointment of all employees by the city manager is subject to approval by city council. It is an advising consent requirement. It is a very unusual provision. It does from time to time slow down our hiring process because we have to hold until council has a meeting so that they can approve that. The simple fact of the matter is in 1949, the city went to a city manager form of government where they made the city manager the chief administrative officer. Part of the administrative officer's job is to appoint employees. And what we're trying to do here is complete what they started in 1949, which is giving the manager the job of being the administrative officer, making those appointments without all of those appointments and removals having to come to council. Okay. I would note also that there have been a couple times in the past when removals have come here and council's been jumpy about them because of concerns about liability and do they have any personal liability and issues like that. This just isn't something that really needs to come through council each and every time.
I assume the current manager or future managers would still be subject to the budget and personnel limits that are.
Absolutely.
Like they couldn't decide to blow the budget on one.
Absolutely. The bottom line is that by controlling the purse strings, you control how much money gets spent, and that's going to be driven by a budget and how much money is available to pay people. And he certainly can't appoint people that the budget doesn't have the ability to pay.
Ms. Fox?
Ordinance number O-2018-28, an ordinance providing the submission to the electors of the City of Middletown an amendment to Article 3, Section 8 of the Charter of the City pertaining to the power of City Council to delegate to the City Manager the ability to change the organizational structure of the City Administration. This is a first reading.
Right now, our city charter requires that this council keep in place an administrative code. And the administrative code outlines the structures. It creates the departments. Before 1972, the departments were created by charter. That was removed in an exercise to enhance flexibility. What the committee is suggesting here is that in a further effort to get flexibility and, again, put the administration of the city in the manager's hands, the council have the ability to delegate to him, not that they automatically would, but they have the ability to delegate to him the power to create the departments and the divisions so that when the organization gets changed, we don't have to rewrite an entire title of the code to reflect that. He simply can do that because council will have had the ability to delegate to that. Now, if council chooses not to delegate that, they would choose not to do that, and he wouldn't have the ability to do it then. But this gives council the power to delegate that to the manager.
Questions for Mr. Landon? All right.
Ordinance number O-2018-29, an ordinance providing the submission to the electors of the City of Middletown an amendment to Article 3, Section 8 of the Charter of the City pertaining to placing the chiefs of the divisions of fire and police in the unclassified service. This is a first reading.
You've already heard about this one. This is simply a change. Right now, our charter places the chiefs, all of the divisions of fire and police, including their chiefs, in the classified service. This is a request to take only the chiefs out of the classified service, which means they would no longer be covered by civil service, and that you could seek candidates from the outside. The reason for this is not a dissatisfaction with anybody. I don't think there was any of that expressed in the room. I think the reason for this is the theory that, again, you're creating increased flexibility in your hiring process. And secondly, you're enlarging your candidate pool. General rule in personnel is anytime you can get your candidate pool bigger and get more candidates, you got a better chance of getting the person you really need. So there is, that's the reason for this, and that's what the proposal is.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Landon?
Mr. Landon, did the committee consider what other municipalities do? I mean, is this an unusual rule? Is this a common rule?
It's a split baby. Different cities do different things. I would tell you that smaller communities tend to stay in-house. The larger communities, Cincinnati, Dayton, they tend to go outside. I know Fairfield has a process that allows them to go outside. We did give them information from those different cities so that they could see those and determine. And I believe I won't say that because I'm not sure that is in the information we gave you. We certainly can get that information to council if they would like that.
I'm a little concerned about the issue because I'm seeing a lot of it taking place in some of the bigger cities where a lot of guys, when they go out for a national search, these guys are just trying to get stepping stones to different positions. I've seen Cincinnati's police chiefs. They've gone through 5 or 6 police chiefs in the last 10 years, and they all use Cincinnati as a stepping stone for a bigger job, Detroit or whatever the case may be. And I don't know if that's what we really want to try to do here, just be a stepping stone for management from the fire department and police department.
And I would tell you, there are arguments to be made on both sides of this issue. The one thing I think that the committee landed on over and over, and just as a note, we have Jeff Repper from the committee, and also, Joe is here. Rick Pierce was here a little earlier. He had to leave. One of the things they kept bouncing back to is, we're not saying they have to go outside. We're simply saying that it gives you the option to do that. It doesn't mean you have to do it. If you have a qualified inside candidate, nothing about this change, unless council created a process that prevented that. But nothing about the charter change would require you to go outside. It would simply give you the ability to consider outside candidates in some very unlikely situations that might occur. It is certainly possible that you get 2 candidates for chief at any given time. And I'm not reflecting on anybody here. I'm just suggesting this can happen, that we don't think are the right candidates at the time. That the city manager is not comfortable that they're the right candidates at that time. And this would give a little more flexibility if that needed to happen. If you're having cultural problems in the police or fire department, you can't change the culture by changing the chiefs because you can't get somebody who's not in the culture. That's a concern. And the simple fact of the matter is that every other department head that runs a department in this city is in the unclassified service. They're not protected. They're not guaranteed to come from the inside. Now, again, if you like inside people and you have good inside people, this doesn't stop you from hiring.
So to be clear, is it a mechanism or out of the gate, if we start looking for a new chief, we take people from the outside? Or is it that if we are not satisfied with our candidates internally, this mechanism then allows us to decide to?
What this mechanism is going to allow you to do is to rewrite your ordinances, which are right now designed to be inside promotional processes. It's going to allow city council to rewrite those with some help from personnel and the HR folks about what are some options. And that could be an option. I mean, there's one city I know of that has a process that from the get-go, you can apply from the outside. But if after all the testing is done, because they still do testing there, if the top scorer on the test is an inside candidate, it's over, that's who gets the job. Now, I don't know if you want to go that far, but there are ways. You're going to have a range of opportunities to figure out what you think the process should be if there's a change made. And you have a range of doing that now. The only limitation on your range is the process has to be inside folks.
As far as the inside versus outside, when's the last opportunity to hire from outside? Is it the initial hire, or could it be a sergeant or captain or lieutenant?
This is only chiefs.
So currently we could hire a captain from...
No. All of our, everybody else in police and fire is covered by civil service. Right, so they are classified and they would stay that way.
Okay.
This does not change that. They would all be hired through the promotional process.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Lehman?
Anything to add from their committee folks? Okay.
Ordinance number O-2018-30, an ordinance providing the submission to the electors of the City of Middletown an amendment to Article 4, Sections 3 and 5 of the Charter of the City pertaining to the publication of legislation and public hearing notices. This is a first reading.
This is another modernization issue. Right now, our charter requires that certain public hearings and certain ordinances, before they come to council a second time or sometimes even the first time, or after passage, they be published in a newspaper of general circulation in the city. In fact, I think a couple of them may actually say 2 newspapers, which we don't have 2 newspapers anymore of general circulation in the city, I'm not sure, unless you count the Inquirer or the Dayton Daily News. The bottom line is that, are we getting this information? Is it getting read in the newspaper? isn't it a good alternative to say, instead of doing that, use electronic media? Now, this doesn't mean we couldn't publish. It simply means that electronic media would be an option in all of these circumstances, to use electronic media to get the information out there. The committee kind of felt that in the modern world, there's probably more chance that people are going to see it on electronic media than they are going to read it in the legal notices in the newspaper.
Questions, Mr. Linden? All right, Ms. Fox?
Ordinance number O 2018-31, an ordinance providing the submission to the electors of the City of Middletown, an amendment to Article 5 of the Charter of the City pertaining to boards and commissions. This is a first reading.
This is the amendment, the proposal that Councilmember Mulligan referred to earlier. There was some concern that only reviewing the charter every 10 years was leaving too much to go on and too many things to happen, and that if we could review it a bit more often. And they felt that reducing that period and having a review committee every 5 years.
This one has to
This
be
is
boards and commissions.
Oh, sorry, I'm ahead of myself.
Jumped ahead there. I didn't think.
My numbers are different on here, and that confuses me. Sorry, this isn't that one.
Yeah.
I lied. Boards and commissions. Right now, our council creates 4 boards and commissions. One of them is the Board of Library Trustees, which, be careful over there. One of those is the Board of Library Trustees, which the state law outlines that needs to happen, and that is a multi-jurisdictionally covered group. The other one is the Board of Health, which there's also state law that we have to have them because they are technically a state board. They're technically an agency of the state. The other two are the Civil Service Commission and the Park Board, which are both locally created, and for some reason in 1949, when they decided to put this in the charter, they felt the need to put those 2 boards in the charter. Now, we have 30 commissions or so that are created by ordinance, and all 4 of these are mentioned in ordinance. And if what we're proposing here is that the Park Board and the Civil Service Commission be removed from the charter as charter-created committees. One of the reasons, again, flexibility. A couple years ago, we had an issue with the Park Board where we wanted to merge the Tree Commission into the Park Board. Because the Park Board was in the charter, we ended up having essentially to decommission the existence of a Tree Commission, which made that publicly harder to explain to people what we were doing, because it looked like we were getting rid of a Tree Commission. Whereas if the Park Board wasn't in the charter, it would have been very easy to merge the 2 together and change the name to reflect what they were now doing. This gets rid of that problem, but the board still exists because it's created by ordinance, and as long as council wants it to exist, it'll be there by ordinance. And the same thing is true of the Civil Service Commission. Our Civil Service Commission, back in 1949, Civil Service Commissions were very, very busy. They handled virtually every discipline in the building. Anything that was more than a 3-day suspension or more, the appeal was to civil service, and they were a very busy group, and they had a lot to do. With the advent of the collective bargaining units, those all go through the grievance process now. Very few of them find their way to civil service. They are a less busy board. They have less to do. They still have functions, but they don't have the ones they had then. So what function they serve has been lessened and reduced in terms of the breadth of it. And it seems like, and whether we have one is our choice or not, it makes sense for the 2 that are very state-related to stay in the charter and let the charter create those so that nobody thinks we're playing games with those. And the 2 that are really local boards be dealt with through ordinances instead of that's the theory.
Any questions for Mr. Linden? All right.
Ordinance number O 2018-32, an ordinance providing the submission to the electors of the City of Middletown, an amendment to Article 1, Section 5 of the Charter of the City pertaining to the Charter Review Committee. This is a first reading.
This is the one that Mr. Mulligan raised a little earlier. I explained it before. They just thought that the time period should be shorter and proposed that we change that from 10 years, mandatorily meet every 5 years instead of every 10 years.
Any other questions from council?
We do have two members here still here from the, if you've got any questions for them. It is also my intent that I will be back and that we will have 3 members of the review committee back on the 19th, so that as you've had more chance to look at these, if you have more questions, we'd be glad for you to send those to us and ask them, and we'll try to get the answers to you like we typically do on legislation, but we'll also be here that if there are things that come up that you want to talk about, then we can.
Okay.
Can I ask also from the union representatives, did you all take a vote in terms of your opinion on this? I know you represented the unions, but is there anything that says, you know, what your constituency feels as a numbered body, or is it a general opinion? Okay. Okay. For both police and fire. You know what? Why not? Let's get some numbers. That would be good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Mayor, one other question, just to refresh everyone on the timing. We'll have first readings obviously tonight, second readings in 2 weeks. This is due to the Board of Elections by when?
I want to say August the 8th is the magic date. It may be a little one way or the other.
Okay.
But it is that first week in August, which means they'll be effective in July. Now, technically, there's an argument to be made because of the Constitution that once you pass them, they're effective for purposes of putting them on the ballot. But to stay consistent with the charter and the way it reads, and to read it in conjunction with the state constitution, I'm going to treat them as if they're effective the 18th of July, and after that date, we would then send them off to both boards of elections. Warren County, they will be sent as a courtesy because Butler, as the bigger county, will handle, as all of you are well aware, will handle the all of the administrative things. We have also written some ballot language, which we will submit with that, and hopefully that can be approved on everything that you approve.
Right. So if council wants to add something in addition to what the committee recommended, we would need to pass that by emergency, I guess, is my other question.
That would probably be the best choice. We can discuss that if there is something. And if there is something, what I would suggest, if there is something you want to add that's not here, that maybe the easiest thing is to send me an email, send Doug and I an email and say, hey, we didn't see this, we'd like to see this. And the simple fact of the matter, with all due respect to my committee, which is one of the best committees I've ever worked with, by the way, with all due respect to them, if there's something that you want to add, you have the right to do it, just like you don't have to pass all of these. This is your choice now. This is in your bailiwick.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that clarification. Okay. All right, Ms. Fox?
Ordinance number O-2018-33, an ordinance granting an agreement with AK Steel Corporation for a sign easement at the intersection of Research Way and Union Road. This is a first reading.
Okay. Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. The AK Research Facility has one small directional sign that's placed on the main road. It's not in an ideal position to be seen by people as they come trying to find that facility. They've approached us on several occasions to request that they be permitted to place a sign in the median along the road leading back to the property. That's normally not what we do. They have also reached out to adjacent landowners trying to resolve this. That has not worked out for them as well. We have always said we don't allow anyone to put a sign in the right of way. This is a special situation, and in this case, we believe an easement seems appropriate under the circumstances. They have spoken with zoning for approval of the design. It's going to be a very nice sign. It's going to be landscaped. They're going to maintain the median. And in this particular case, we believe it's appropriate to grant them an easement.
Okay. Any questions for council?
This sign is in the meridian of the road?
This would be on the Research Way. It's got, with the green in the middle between the two, it'd be a monument sign.
In the meridian?
In the grass, yeah.
Meridian.
Go ahead.
It will also be available for all tenants that go back there. Right now, it is just currently AK Steel, but they have designed it and left a special area so that if there are additional tenants that go back off of there, that they can then add their information on the bottom.
Okay. All right, thank you. And Ms. Fox, number 15.
Ordinance number O-2018-34, an ordinance amending sections 1402.01, Residential Code of Ohio adopted, 1402.02, file and distribution copies, 1404.01, Ohio Building Code adopted, 1406.01, building permits, certificates of occupancy, 1406.02, demolition permits, 1406.06, inspections outside regular business hours, 1410.11, fees for occupancy of streets, 1412.02, Ohio Mechanical Code adopted, 1412.02, file and distribution copies, 1418.06, HVAC permit and inspection fees, 1420.01, National Electric Code adopted, 1424.06, electrical permit and inspection fees, 1426.01, Ohio Plumbing Code adopted, 1426.02, file and distribution copies, 1432.02, plumbing permit and inspection fees, and 1448.04, permit fees of the codified ordinances. This is a first reading this evening.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor, this accomplishes a couple things. Number one, from time to time, all of those different building codes are amended at the state level. Larry Tuttle, our chief building official, has been working for several months to get these all cleaned up, and we finally got them ready to come to you for passage. The second piece of this is that he typically about every other year does a fee survey of the areas in Southwest Ohio. We are almost dead last in most of our fees. This will bring our fees up to the mid-range in most areas, and so we are trying to clean up a lot of stuff in one time.
Any questions for council?
Yeah, I guess as I read through Exhibit A and the comparison charts, it feels a little bit more like it's not in the median. Like, for example, the first one, it takes us from the middle to the highest. The second one, from the second lowest to only behind Warren and Kettering. The third one, only behind Kettering as far as proposed. Commercial permit fees from the second lowest to the second highest. I'm just wondering if it's too much of a jump on some of these. You know, we want to make sure we're staying competitive, but not becoming inhibiting growth as well. It would be my only concern.
What would you like us to do?
It would be somewhere in the middle or lower end. I mean,
We can. Is that what you want to be? Do you want to lead or you want to follow? It's up to you. I can go anywhere you want to go.
Is the survey, I mean, it's limited to what, 2 counties and?
Yes.
Hamilton, Kettering, Fairfield, I guess. I mean, are there other jurisdictions we should look at in terms of peers? I mean, I think of other regional ones. I mean, I'm assuming the county covers all the township applications, or do some of the townships have their own?
What would you like to see? We'll get it for you.
Would that help address your concern, Mr. Boone? I mean, I think maybe that's. I mean, I share your concern. I mean, I don't want to be the. I don't think we need to be the cheapest, but I don't know that. I don't know it's that big a difference
not all
on some of these.
You know, single-family room addition seemed reasonable.
Yeah.
Were these Larry's recommendations based
are.
on kind of knowing what we probably get the most and least?
And talking to the contractors and yeah. But again, if you'd like to see more information, if there's other specific places you'd like us to look, we're happy to do whatever you want us to do.
Sure. I'll send you an email this week. Let me think on it and think about what other resources I'd like to see.
That'd be fine. And if we can't, we can always table this and, do a little more research and bring it back again, modify or wherever council would like to go.
Thank you.
Ordinance number O-2018-35, an ordinance amending Chapter 864 in regards to special police officers of the codified ordinances. This is a first reading.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. City of Middletown regulates special police officers under Chapter 864 of the Codified Ordinances. It was created in the late 1950s, and we haven't modified it since 1987. Police Department have recommended some minor changes, and they are ready for your approval at the next meeting.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Atkins?
Ordinance number O 2018-36, an ordinance amending section 209.07 in regards to bid securities of the codified ordinances. This is a first reading.
Okay.
This is a parallel to Ohio Revised Code Section 153.54, which has been amended a couple times, once in 2007 and once in 2011. Those now call for a bid guarantee of 10%. We are then recommending that we modify the city ordinance to match the state code.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Atkins? Getting towards the end here.
Ordinance number O 2018-37, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with the Community Building Institute. This is a first reading.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. Back during the recession, there was actually a time when the community, when the Robert Sunny Hill Community Center was frankly up to closure, when we were getting rid of the golf course and closing other pieces. Community Building Institute came in and took over the operations in 2014. They have simply done a wonderful job over the last 4 years. The building is in better shape than it's been in a long time. They've been able to reduce our general fund subsidy, and they've implemented a number of quality programs there. We are recommending continuing that relationship with a 3-year contract with a 2-year option to move forward and continue with operations.
Okay. Any questions from council? All right.
Ordinance number O 2018-38, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Flotweg for the purchase of a dewatering centrifuge. This is a first reading.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. Hazen and Sawyer was hired to review the current equipment and dewatering operations at the wastewater treatment plant. After a thorough evaluation and comparison of our existing equipment and also various equipment manufacturers, life cycle cost comparisons, reliability, availability of parts, and other items, Hazen recommended the city consider a new centrifuge unit. The Flotweg, I think is how you say that unit, meets our needs, was successfully operating in the other plant in another plant similar to Middletown's, has a fairly local from Independence, Kentucky service center, and is lower in cost than the other 2 units. It also has the advantage that by working with us and our employees, we were able to do some of the work ourselves, saving us further money. There is $500,000 in the sewer capital to cover this expenditure in the 2018 budget.
Okay. Any questions on dewatering? Okay.
Lastly is resolution number R 2018-09. This is a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Middletown, Counties of Butler and Warren, State of Ohio for the period ending December 31st, 2018. This is just in regards to the general fund.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. We have accumulated a list of several just basically maintenance items, mostly for the city building. Ceiling tiles that need to be done, exterior lighting that needs to be replaced, spot replacing carpet, some lobby HVAC work, and some other items that need attention. We are asking for an additional appropriation of $25,000 that would allow us to go ahead and make those repairs.
Any questions?
This has nothing to do with the outside pavers?
Correct. Since you've asked, we were talking earlier about putting together a plan. I can tell you that the Public Works Department has received back a concept of how we could completely redo the paver system all the way around. I haven't had a chance to sit down with Scott and talk to him about what all it involves, costs or anything like that, but we are working on that. But this would be independent of all of that. This is just strictly maintenance work.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
That's it for this
Very
evening.
good. Yes, 20 pieces. That's not quite a record, but getting there. Our last item this evening is an executive session, so I need a motion of the Authority of Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G2 to consider the purchase of property for public purposes or for the sale of property at competitive bidding if premature disclosure of information would give an unfair, competitive, or bargaining advantage.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion or second. Ms. Camp, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
All right, final executive session will be in recess till our next meeting, June 19th, 2018, in these chambers. Thank you all and a good evening.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Do you mind if I